Let's bring in my man, Jon Lyons from WEEI and the New England Football Journal here to talk Pats with us. Welcome back, my brother. Thanks for getting up early.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be on, as always, with you guys.
All right, let's get into it. I need your reactions from Sunday because, look, week one, I think I told you this, it wasn't so much what the Patriots did not do against the Raiders. I left that game being impressed with what I saw from the Raiders. I didn't think the Patriots were terrible. They certainly,
funny to hear you say that.
They weren't very good either. And I had to apologize to Kasey and Geno Smith's entire family tree the next day. Week two, I kind of feel the same way. The Patriots played better, no question. But I left that game thinking, man, the Dolphins are really a mess. I think McDaniel's going to get fired any day now at this point. What were your takeaways? What was your reaction from the Patriots win in week two?
Yeah, it was pretty similar to you, Travis, that a lot of this was about the Dolphins are a really bad team right now. I mean, they got smoked by the Colts 33-8 the week before. Patriots, I thought, were the better team throughout most of this game. I thought the Dolphins are better throughout most of the second quarter, but for the other three quarters, felt like the Patriots were the better team. They just made some mistakes that really kept the Dolphins close in this game, whether it was the punt return they allowed for the touchdown, the 12 penalties, right? Those things kind of got in the Patriots' way a little bit. But I think on the whole, too, I look at this game as a positive step forward in the Patriots' rebuild in their development. Because obviously, look, it's a win, so we'll state the obvious, but this is a game, guys, that they would have lost last year, and they would have lost it in 2023 as well. We talked before, they had 14 one-possession losses throughout the last two seasons. They had a one-possession loss last week. So for them to make enough plays, especially, I know Miami's not a good team, but playing down there early in the year, that is a tough environment. That is a tough road game. So to win that game and to make just enough plays to win, again, it's not the type of game that's going to make you, a contender in the AFC, but I do think it was a positive step forward in their development because, as the old saying goes, before you can really learn how to win, you have to learn not to lose. And it felt like they did a good job not losing the game and then obviously winning it in the end against Miami on Sunday.
Well, a good way to learn not to lose is whichever team can make the better adjustments and kind of be consistent in that sense, right? And we saw that when push came to shove, the Patriots were able to find better adjustments. But one of the key factors there, Ramondre Stevenson, in both ways, rushing the ball and receiving the ball. So just can we talk about the fact that is this going to be a hopeful point for this team? Because there was just kind of a lot of conversation around his name in terms of consistency being one of it, reliability being another part of it. And you saw both out of him in order for them to be able to push past the Dolphins this weekend.
Yeah, I think this was the best game Ramondre Stevenson had played since 2022. And you go back to 2022, not only was he really good as a running back, he led the team in receptions with 69 catches that year. Now, I'm not expecting him to lead the team in receptions this year, but again, this was the best game I think he had played probably since that late season Raiders game in 2022. He looked decisive when he was running the ball. That 55-yard catch and run was the biggest play of the game. I also thought it was one of the best plays Drake Maye has made in his time as a Patriot. We can get to that. But the running back room is really interesting because I went on your guys' show a few weeks ago, and I talked about how I thought Travion Henderson could be their starting running back by the end of the season. And that's still possible. But Stevenson's doing everything he can to hold Henderson off so far. And I think all three of these guys, and I'm including Antonio Gibson, who had the kick return, maybe the biggest play of the game from some perspectives as well, they, I think, are best in a committee working together, especially with Henderson being a rookie. And Stevenson, we've seen, when he's been at his best, I think 2021, his work with Damian Harris back when he was a rookie might have been the best he looked, even though it wasn't the best overall numbers he put up, that might have been the best he's looked as a pro so far. So I think all three of these guys are served best if they're part of a committee. And you saw last week, none of them really contributed that much. Patriots don't win. This week, Gibson had the huge kick return. Stevenson was arguably the best player on the field. So 2 out of the 3 contributed, and you got to win. And I think going forward, if you can get 2 out of those 3 guys to contribute every week, that is going to be a recipe for the Patriots winning a lot more games going forward.
I completely agree, JL Smooth. In fact, I asked for Henderson. I wanted the game Ramondre had for Henderson. Leading up all week, I was like, put him in the slot, throw him the ball, get him the ball. And they did that with Ramondre. I didn't have a problem with that because, to your point, the results were there. So I don't care who it is, but you have to figure out how to do that consistently. I agree with you. I want to ask about Stefon Diggs. I'm looking at his stat line here. Now, week 1, it's the first game of the year. We know he's still trying to get healthy. First game as a Patriot. I'm going to give him a pass. Week 2 against the Dolphins, I anticipated more. I thought there'd be more production. Diggs, 4 grabs, 32 yards, no tutties. This is from a good game with Drake Maye, and we'll get to him in a second. What are you seeing from Stefon Diggs or not seeing? Because he feels irrelevant to me in this offense, John. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, it's interesting, Travis, and I think there's 2 things at work here. First, if you go back to when they signed Stefon Diggs, we were talking about, hey, is this guy going to be back by Columbus Day? And he was ready for week 1. So he is a little bit ahead of schedule. I think some of this is he's still working his way back in a new system. And I'm not trying to make a ton of excuses for him here. I just think, again, you go back to when they signed him, and we were talking about week 5, right? Columbus Day-ish, that timeline when he would be back. He's obviously way ahead of schedule. He's out there. But it does look like he's got some work to do to get back up to full speed. And again, it is a new system as well. And I think another part of this was the game plan they used against Miami. You saw a ton of 2 tight ends, a lot of Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry on the field together. Mac Hollins was a big part of this game plan because it wasn't just Diggs. It was a quiet day from Demario Douglas as well. It was a quiet day from Kayshon Boutte because, again, the guys that were emphasized in this offense were Ramondre Stevenson, Hunter Henry, and Austin Hooper. It felt like that's kind of what they built their game plan around, was using that 12 personnel, using Ramondre Stevenson heavily. And they only threw the ball 23 times, right? So last week they throw it 46 times against the Raiders. They cut it in half against Miami. So I think some of this is Diggs working his way back, and we'll have to keep an eye on that, right? Because if we're doing this show in week 7 or week 8, guys, and he's still having games like this, then that's a problem. But I think for now you can say, all right, give him a couple more weeks, see how he looks at the end of September, early October, which is when he was originally on track to be back. And I think part of it was just the game plan they went in with. Again, Stevenson had if Stevenson doesn't have that 55-yard catch and run, who knows? Maybe Douglas or Diggs has another catch or 2 on that drive if they keep it going. I don't know. But I think part of it, again, was Diggs' health and where he's at. And part of it is just kind of the game plan that they built against Miami for this week.
I think it's definitely the game plan, considering that you just mentioned how much they cut down on trying to pass the ball. And Travis and I have talked about the fact of the tempo that comes into play when you try to be a pass-heavy team, or at least ramp up that sort of production. They don't trust our offensive line right now. They realize that they just can't do so quite yet. So how do they start to game plan versus a team like the Steelers that are going to make them even more uncomfortable when it comes to game planning and execution?
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because we always think of the Steelers' defense as this great, tough defense to play with, but Josh McDaniels has had a ton of success against the Steelers throughout the years. Steelers' defense has kind of been all over the place to start this year. They're giving up 31 points a game so far, right? They have not been good. Alonzo Highsmith left their game last week. We'll see if he's healthy against the Patriots, but this is an opportunity for me, whether the Patriots win or lose, for them to score 28 or 30 points once again. And last week they scored 30 points, first time in a few years they did that, and obviously some of it was the special teams touchdown. But this is an opportunity for them to do that on offense. And you mentioned the offensive line. I think it's worth mentioning, Will Campbell looked really good against the Miami Dolphins, and Jared Wilson played pretty well in addition to Campbell. So we've talked a lot about those 2 rookies on the left side of the line, and it hasn't all been perfect so far, as we know, right? Whether we were down at training camp or last week against the Raiders or those preseason games in between, hasn't all been perfect. But I thought last week that was the first road game for those 2 guys in the NFL, and I thought on the whole they looked really good. And I thought Garrett Bradbury looked good as well. Now, are they going to look that good every single week? Maybe not. But if Alonzo Highsmith doesn't play, and then you really only have to worry about TJ Watt from a pass rushing perspective, and the Steelers have a pretty good defensive front anyway, but still, without Highsmith in there, that makes a difference. If these guys can build on what they did against Miami, I think that'll be huge. And I think some of this goes back to, if Mike Vrabel is as good of a coach as we all say he is, and if Drake Maye has the potential that we all think he does, then they should build off that win against Miami. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to go out and beat the Steelers 41-10, but you should be, if you're that good of a coach who's won Coach of the Year before, and you're that good of a young quarterback, you should be able to take a good win, an uneven win, but still a good win, and build off it in a home game against a team that's been pretty inconsistent through the first 2 weeks of the year.
What are you seeing with Drake Maye? I mean, you're a student of the game. I know you. You watch all these games 10 times over. What do you see with Drake Maye 2 weeks into this? Are you impressed? It seems like he was better this week than week one. That's all you can ask for, right?
Yeah, it's been almost a Jekyll and Hyde start to the season for Drake Maye, because week one, I thought he was all over the place. Missed a lot of throws, missed open guys, ton of high throws. I thought his interception against the Raiders was arguably the biggest play in that game. I mean, they go down and score on that drive, they probably win. Last week against Miami, I thought Drake Maye was terrific. One of his best games as a Patriot. That play to Stevenson, the 55-yard gain, was one of his best throws as a Patriot. Maybe his best overall play as a Patriot. Look at that's third down. He's facing pressure, steps up in the pocket, keeps his eyes forward, delivers an accurate ball to Stevenson down the sideline with room to run. And then, oh, by the way, the very next play, he outruns an unblocked Matthew Judon for a touchdown. Like, if you're a Patriots fan like we are, that's what you want to see out of Drake Maye going forward. Like, that's the potential right there. And the biggest thing, Travis, for me, no turnovers in that game against Miami. Because I sound like a broken record, I know. I've been talking about turnovers with Drake Maye for 8 months now. This was only the second game he's had as a Patriot that he finished the game with no turnovers. And I think that's huge. And if he can limit his turnovers going forward, again, as I said, you see the potential there. And this was a game that, had he turned the ball over, maybe they would have ended up losing. I mean, this was a one-possession win where Miami had a chance to win it late, and Milton Williams made a great play. If they had mixed in a turnover there, maybe it doesn't work out. So, again, the way he looked and the comfort level was great to see. The biggest thing for me is he didn't turn the ball over. And he really didn't make any throws throughout that game that I was like, ooh, that's, he got away with one there, or that wasn't a good one. Felt like every throw had a purpose, even the incompletions. I don't think any of them were terrible balls per se or bad decisions, which out of a young quarterback in his second start in a new offense, you really couldn't ask for much more than what you saw out of Maye on Sunday.
All right, that's all well and good, but I'm going to tell you a big concern I have, okay?
I don't mean to laugh.
All right, I'm sticking with quarterbacks. It ain't Drake Maye. I'm looking at these numbers. Tua, 315 yards, 2 touchdowns. Geno Smith last week, I told you I apologize to his whole family tree for the stuff I talked.
He did.
362 yards and a touchdown. I am very concerned about Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf against a team giving up all these damn yards to quarterbacks who are not better than Aaron Rodgers, even at this advanced stage of his career, John.
Rain on
I
his
am very
parade,
concerned.
John. Come on.
Yeah, it's kind of great. Like, you see the Patriots defense at the bottom of the league in pass yards allowed per
What's
game.
going on?
And look, I think there's multiple things going on here, right? Let's state the obvious. Christian Gonzalez not there. That's an all-pro player.
Yeah.
That
Sure.
makes a big difference. Because look at all the explosive plays they gave up. I mean, it was 9 pass plays over 20 yards against the Raiders. They gave up a few more against the Dolphins, including that 47-yarder on 3rd and long to Tyreek Hill. Like, if Christian Gonzalez is there, you're not giving up that many explosive plays. I'm not saying you're giving up none, but you're not giving up that many. And I think there's a couple other things that are at work here. One, it's a brand new scheme for a lot of these guys. I mean, for 25 years, the Patriots ran the Bill Belichick defense, and there were variations in it, but a lot of the foundational parts were the same. And then even last year with DeMarcus Covington, there were differences, but there was still a lot of the same foundational parts of that defense. This is brand new for these guys to run. And I think the other piece of it is a ton of new guys here working together and playing together for the first time. Like, Christian Barmore has been here. Marcus Jones has been here. There's a couple other guys, like Anthony Jennings, who played a decent amount in the second half, has been here. Other than that, there's a ton of brand new guys with major roles here, whether it's Woodson, Hawkins, Davis, Spillane, Milton Williams, right? Harold Landry. The list goes on. So I think those three things have created a perfect storm of the Patriots giving up a bunch of explosive plays. And this, Travis, to me, this is arguably the second biggest thing to watch with this team for the rest of the year behind Drake Maye's development. Can they stop giving up so many huge explosive pass plays? Because if they can, this defense can be really good. But I think they need to get Christian Gonzalez back. They need to get more comfortable in this scheme, and they need to get more comfortable in playing together. And look, I know the Steelers have been kind of all over the place, but let's not forget DK Metcalf had a 50-yard touchdown in Foxborough in Week 2 last year.
Yeah.
You don't want to let that guy get going. Aaron Rodgers still, despite having a bad year on the Jets last year, still had a pretty good season statistically. So it's not going to get much easier against the Steelers. Then you do have the Panthers in week 4, but of course, Josh Allen and the Bills in week 5. So it's something that you should be watching closely, and they got to kind of figure this out pretty quickly. It was better against the Dolphins, but it's still not good enough to the point where they can really rely on their defense right now.
Yeah, weirdly enough, they probably did a little bit better in terms of like getting their hands on certain passes and balls and being a little bit more disruptive versus the Raiders than they were versus the Dolphins.
Especially in the second half case.
Exactly. Yeah. And the biggest demise and the way to get into Aaron Rodgers' head is to create interception opportunities, because that's what flustered him as a Jet last season.
Right.
So hopefully they can make those adjustments. We know that this scheme requires a lot of versatility, which takes some time to get comfortable in, because we can't just rely on Christian Gonzalez to be the answer. You're talking about a pretty long season ahead and a secondary that tends to get pretty banged up. So fingers crossed that they can make those adjustments. But I got to just ask you the simple question here. Now that we've put everything on the table, what is your prediction for week 3? Because we keep talking about bringing the panic button into the studio, out of the studio, putting it on the desk. I don't think it's in the studio right now after being able to pull through versus the Dolphins. But where does your prediction lie versus the Steelers team, as you put it, is very inconsistent thus far?
Yeah, Kasey, I've been struggling with this a lot because there's a lot to like about what the Patriots did in week 2, but there are plenty of things not to like about that. We didn't even mention you missed 2 extra points and you had a kickoff go short against the Dolphins, right?
Right.
So, look, I thought they were going to finish September at 2-2. I thought they'd lose to the Raiders, beat Miami, lose to the Steelers, and beat the Panthers. And I'm kind of sticking with that right now. I give the Steelers a slight edge here, and a lot of it comes down to actually DK Metcalf. If the Patriots allow 1 or 2 explosive pass plays from Metcalf, I think that could flip the game. I could see this game being a 28-24 or 31-28 type game, just because, again, the Patriots defense just doesn't feel like it's quite there yet. Now, guys, I'm sitting here. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I just see the Steelers right now having a little bit of an edge, because the Patriots just, again, they have those things to clean up. And the Highsmith injury matters. And, guys, I'll say this. If they were playing the Steelers 2 months from now and it was November, maybe I would pick the Patriots if they had some of these things cleaned up. I just think right now, both teams have been inconsistent, and Patriots just have a little bit more to clean up right now.
I mean, I'm looking it up now. The Seahawks did put 31 up on the Steelers, so your scores.
Walker was a big factor in that, though.
I'm
so
just
maybe
saying.
if Stevenson can run the ball down the Steelers throat. I don't know.
Stevenson or
It'd be
Henderson.
nice if the Patriots could win a game at home, too. Feels like it's been a while since we've got a chance to see that.
Absolutely.